Ever think about, like, when you're scrolling through your favorite artist's merch store online
Yeah.
and you see, like, I don't know, some crazy T-shirt or something, and you think, man, if I buy this, is any of this money even going to them?
Right?
That's kind of what we're diving into today, looking at the direct-to-fan music scene.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because it's not just a fad. This is like musicians are finding these really creative ways to connect with fans directly and basically take back control of their careers.
It's like hitting the reset button on the whole music industry, in a way, right?
Totally, totally.
So, okay, imagine needing, like, over 1 million streams just to earn what you would from, like, couple hundred albums sold directly to fans.
Yeah.
That's the reality for a lot of artists.
Yeah, I mean, the system right now, like with streaming and record labels, everybody's taking their cut, and it leaves the artist with, like, sometimes just crumbs.
Yeah.
You think about it, you've got the talent, the production, the marketing.
Right, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, where does all the money go?
Yeah. It's that whole, like, game of telephone, you know?
Yeah.
Like, by the time the message gets to the end, totally all garbled.
Garbled, yeah, and some people have, like, way more than their fair share.
Right, exactly. So that's where, I guess someone like Curtis King comes in,
Yeah.
our inspiration for this whole deep dive.
Absolutely. And he was, successful, relatively successful, I would say, in the traditional music industry. But he kind of walked away from it all because he said it was kind of like running on a treadmill and getting nowhere fast.
Yeah.
And realized that to actually build a lasting career, a sustainable career in music, he needed to create a more direct path
Okay.
to his fan base.
So he kind of just, like, unplugged from the matrix.
Yeah, he did. He unplugged. Exactly.
Wow.
Realized that relying solely on these platforms that, we all know and love, Spotify, Apple Music, all that, with their tiny, tiny per stream payouts, wasn't going to cut it.
Right. Those fractions of a cent.
Yeah. I mean, you think about Spotify, it's roughly like 0.003 to 0.005 per stream. You think about how many streams you need to even pay your rent, let alone, like,
Yeah, reinvest in your music.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about those monthly subscription fees in a whole new light.
Totally, totally.
Now, what did he do?
So King went all in. He was like, I'm going to build a direct relationship with my fans.
Okay.
And essentially became his own, mini record label.
Wow.
Selling music through his website. He created an app
Smart.
and went that route.
So cutting out the middleman, doing it himself.
Yeah. It's like setting up shop in a, bustling town square as opposed to getting lost in this massive online marketplace.
That makes sense, but I imagine there's got to be some unique challenges too, right? Like, how do you even get discovered if you're not on those big platforms?
Yeah, it's like the million-dollar question. Visibility, You're competing with, like, algorithms and these massive systems. But here's where King's approach gets really, really interesting. He focuses on building what he calls diehard fans.
Diehard fans. Okay, now I'm really interested. Tell me more about that.
So we're not just talking about casual listeners here. We're talking about the people who are buying albums directly, going to the shows, engaging on social media. Like, they are invested.
Wow.
And he talks about how, even a small fan base, a small but dedicated fan base, can be way more valuable than millions of, passive streamers.
Right, so it's about quality over quantity.
Exactly. It's a genuine connection over, like, fleeting engagement.
Yeah, I like that. It's like, instead of a rising tide lifting all boats, it's like, one very dedicated wave pushing a specific boat further. You know what I mean?
I like that.
So how do you find those fans? Is there, like, a secret handshake or something?
Yeah.
Laughing. No secret handshake, but definitely a lot of strategic thinking. So King actually uses platforms like Instagram, TikTok, things like that, not to directly sell music, but to sort of showcase his personality.
Okay.
To give you, like, a behind-the-scenes peek into his process and then direct people back to his own website or his app.
So it's like using the mainstream platforms as a kind of like a
feeder.
Yeah, a feeder.
Exactly.
To his own little corner of the internet.
Yes, exactly. And then once they're there, he really cultivates those relationships,
Yeah.
Exclusive content, personalized messages. He's done, like, one-on-one video calls with fans.
Wow.
Like, he's building a community, not just, racking up followers.
That's awesome. It's like a modern day fan club, but on a whole other level,
Totally. And this is where, the whole concept of the 1,000 true fans
Yeah.
comes into play.
Okay, I've heard that thrown around. I'd love to hear you break that down. Okay, so the idea is if an artist can find 1,000 true fans And we're talking people who are willing to spend, say, $100 a year on their work.
Okay.
That's $100,000 right there.
Yeah.
Just from direct support.
And it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because it's not about, like, chasing mass appeal anymore. It's about, cultivating these really meaningful connections.
Exactly. And it's not just about the money. He talks about how this gives him more creative freedom. He can experiment. He doesn't have the pressure of, pleasing a label or an algorithm. It's really about, like...
Yeah, his own artistic vision.
Exactly. Exactly.
Really owning it.
But, it can't all be, perfect. There's got to
No.
be challenges to managing all of this on your own.
Yeah, for sure. It's like you're wearing all the hats now. You're the
Yeah.
marketer, the accountant, customer service, everything.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
King talks a lot about how artists really need to understand the business side of music. Like, really understand it.
Learn about the money, the marketing.
Finances, yeah, marketing, even legal stuff.
Wow, okay.
And he's big on using technology to make it all easier.
Oh, okay. Tell me more. You know I love the tech talk.
He loves AI tools, like ChatGPT, for example.
Oh, okay.
Using that to, like, automate tasks, manage social media, even, like, draft emails and stuff.
Whoa, AI writing emails to fans. That's wild.
It sounds crazy, but it frees him up to do what he does best, you know?
Might make music.
Exactly. He's like, why am I going to spend hours on a spreadsheet when I could be, writing a song or talking to the people who actually make this all worthwhile?
Yeah. I love that. Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. Exactly. And it just goes to show there are tools and resources for artists who want to take this path. You don't have to do it all yourself.
This is all so insightful. I mean, really interesting to hear about, like, the behind the scenes of being an independent musician. But does King ever see himself going back to, like, the traditional music industry, Like, what if streaming services up their payouts?
It's funny you say that. He's actually pretty optimistic about the future. He thinks that as more artists kind of adopt this direct-to-fan model,
Yeah.
it could actually force the industry to change.
So it's not necessarily about, like, abandoning streaming and all that. It's about, like, making it more equitable for everyone.
Exactly, exactly. He sees this movement as a catalyst for change.
Right.
And there have been some promising developments on that front.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, there's been a lot more support for legislation like the Living Wage for Musicians Act, which is trying to address those super low streaming payouts we were talking about earlier.
Okay, I like the sound of that. So what would that actually mean for artists, though, practically? So
Yeah.
this Living Wage for Musicians Act, what's the deal with that? Is it like guaranteeing artists a minimum wage for, like, every stream?
Not exactly, no. It's more about like trying to get these streaming services to, actually pay out a bigger chunk of their revenue to the artists.
Okay, got it.
So it's less about like a direct paycheck and more about, I guess, making sure that artists are getting a bigger slice of the pie.
Right. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and that kind of change, that could really shake things up,
For sure.
like recalibrating the whole system.
Right, to make sure that the artists, like the heart and soul of it all, aren't getting, left behind.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. And it seems like this whole direct-to-fan thing is really picking up steam.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's not just individual artists, doing their own thing anymore. You've got platforms like Bandcamp
Right.
really championing independent musicians,
Okay, yeah.
providing like all the tools and everything. Then there's membership platforms like Patreon where fans can like directly support artists.
Oh, right, with those monthly subscriptions.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
cool. So it's becoming more of a team effort in a way.
Totally. Totally.
Awesome.
Artists, platforms, fans, everybody working together to kind of build this like better, more sustainable music scene.
It's pretty inspiring, honestly.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's easy to get kind of bummed out by, like, the business side of music and everything.
Yeah.
But then you hear stories like Curtis King's, and it's like,
Right.
people are out there, like, really taking control.
Absolutely. It's all about innovation and, putting in the work
Hustle, hustle, hustle.
and understanding your audience.
Right, right. And the best part is he's, like, totally open about sharing what he's learned,
Oh, yeah. He's passionate about it.
which is awesome.
He's always saying that obviously talent is important, but you got to understand the business side.
Yeah.
Like, that's non-negotiable.
You got to know what you're doing.
You got to, like, level up your music IQ, as he says.
I love that. Level up your music IQ. Okay,
Yeah.
that's got to be our takeaway for this deep dive, right? What's that thought you want to leave everyone with?
Okay, so we've talked about all the challenges, right? Those tiny streaming payouts, the whole system. But the cool thing is that things are changing,
Yeah.
and it's really up to all of us, artists and fans, to kind of change our perspective. So my question to everyone listening is, What if we stopped thinking of music as just another thing we consume?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
something we stream endlessly for a few bucks a month.
Yeah.
What if we saw it as something to support directly, like a connection worth investing in?
I love that. What would happen? What would the music industry look like if everybody started thinking like that?
Exactly.
That's something to think about. All right. Well, on that note, we'll let you go ponder that very question. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of direct-to-fan music.
Thanks, everyone.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep supporting the music you love.